It feels like 2008 all over again. The best way to protect your savings is with gold and silver. As the national debt soars past 34 trillion and the banking system wobbles, your financial well-being could be at risk. Precious metals like gold and silver hedge against inflation and dollar devaluation. They're perfect for diversifying your portfolio. With Goldco, it's easy. Get first-class service, step-by-step guidance, and a free wealth protection kit. In just 3 simple steps, you can roll over your 401k or IRA into precious metals, tax and penalty free. Todd Callender and I chose Goldco because they stand out with over 6,000 5-star ratings, an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and a highest buyback price guarantee. Don't wait. Secure your financial future. Visit survival.gold or click the link below to get your free 2024 Wealth Protection Kit now. Government agencies have been weaponized against us. The Secret Service reacts too late. The FBI manufactures cases. The ATF targets our firearms, and the FDA screws us to drive big pharma profits. We must support Trump, who literally took a bullet for us, and back independent media like Survival Dispatch News. Now they're aiming to make Black Forest NMN a regulated anti-aging product to drive more profits for big pharma. NMN is the only over-the-counter supplement I've taken that's noticeably increased my energy levels, allowing me to work extreme hours. I've taken almost every OTC supplement over the past 42 years that I've been training, many of them as a world champion powerlifter. Get your NMN before it's too late. Buy 2, get 1 free. Click the link below. Stay alert, stay strong, and stay. And we're back. Had to play that video just because Elon posted earlier today, and I thought it was a pretty awesome, high energy, just like the rally was last night. Great way to start. Jeff, something looks different with you tonight. What's going on here? You're on mute.
I'm sure I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, you look 20 years younger.
I wish I were 20 years younger, if that helps. But no, I had to dye my hair for my wife for our Halloween costume. We had a neighborhood Halloween party last night.
Right on. That's fantastic.
I had to cut it all off because she also had me growing it out for the last few months.
That's too funny. Too funny. Too funny. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm Chris Evan. I'm the CEO and owner of Survival Dispatch. This is my good friend, Jeff, MD, 26-year CIA operative. We just call him 007. And he has quite a following in Great Britain, by the way. But the British love Jeff, MD. So he's kind of like the American James Bond to our UK friends.
Well, right. I love the UK too. It's a great country. They're just kind of screwing it up right now.
Boy, howdy. Ain't that the truth? So I don't know if you had a chance to look at the brief or not, Jeff, but the conflicted question is really short tonight. Give 5 tips for winning a gunfight. It's from the Desolation deck, is it? Yeah, Desolation deck. So we're into a new deck with new questions, new perspectives. All right, tonight's video is brought to you by CCW Safe and Sawyer Products. The videos we played, of course, don't match that, and that's okay. We'll have some ads going over the next couple days for them. And I'm going to tell you just briefly my thoughts on CCW Safe in particular. We were partners with a very large player in this industry, the self-defense coverage industry. And we ended up switching to another company because the person we were working with at the first one left. And at the time, it was the best decision. But then we found out both of those companies have clawback clauses. So it's against the law to be paid insurance benefits if you were caught breaking the law. So the way that would work would be, let's say you had a really aggressive DA and they they pushed it to the limit, and then they went to your attorney just before going to court and said, listen, just have Chris plea out to this lesser charge. We'll call it a day. 95% of the time, that's how criminal charges are resolved. It's an out-of-court plea. The second, though, that you say, okay, well, I'm guilty of this lesser charge, misdemeanor, whatever the case may be, those companies then by law have to claw back the money that they paid out to defend you because it's against the law to pay insurance benefits to somebody who's broken the law. And so put you in a pretty compromised position. So then we looked at another option where there was no payouts for things like, property lost, civil judgments, all that kind of stuff. And we were this close to signing up with these guys. This was like 18 months ago. And then we discovered there was a poison pill in their clause that basically said, yeah, I mean, we're going to defend you for the money that you pay us, but you'll need expert witnesses and you're going to have to pay for them out of your pocket. And it was hidden in the fine print. So thank God that was brought to our attention before we endorsed them. So fast forward to now, I've been going back and forth with CCW Safe for 18 months and have it directly from the founder and owner of the company that, number one, they have no clawback clause, and number two, they're not putting insurance on you. So the way that it works is they have an unlimited insurance policy on themselves, CCW Safe, and you're just buying a membership that has benefits. So if you get in, a citizen involved shooting, they defend you. Basically, everything is unlimited. They're not going to claw anything back. They're not insuring you. They're insured themselves against any losses. It's by far the best way to skin this cat. And I got to tell you, just a great group of people that I've dealt with at CCW Safe. And again, we took our time with it. It's been 18 months that we just kind of put it on the back burner and thought, well, we're not going to get involved in this because I don't want to be recommending something and then it turns out to be not very good. But CCW Safe, it's a good deal. Definitely the way to go. I mentioned Sawyer Products as well. I want to say this about Sawyer. American owned, American made, has passed every test that we've thrown at it, and that's unusual. We have tested a ton of water treatment products over the years. Very few of them pass the tests. Most of it's smoke and mirrors and just complete BS. But I also like the way that Sawyer Products run their company. So they have a statement on their website that basically says, we believe that nonprofits should be supported and we give them, and they deserve a portion of our profits. They've been bending over backwards to help the victims of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. They're just a really, really good company with really, really good products. And it's ironic, the water treatment stuff kind of falls in the same category as the self-defense coverage. We have been holding back on endorsing anybody, well, probably 2 years now in that field. And on top of which, I think I mentioned it last night, is, Grand Thumb, Spec Op Soldier, SEER instructor, he uses Sawyer Products. And if it's good enough for Grand Thumb, it's good enough for Survival Dispatch. But you'll see some more content on that coming up. As far as updates are concerned, we'll have another live episode tomorrow evening at the usual 7 p.m. Eastern. We have a pre-recorded episode queued up for Wednesday on Grid Down. That will play at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't had a chance to go over to patreon.com/survival dispatch, we have free memberships and we have $9.99 a month memberships. If you pay $9.99, you get access to all the content. If you're a free member, you get about 50% of it. There's behind the scenes content, early access to content. You get the briefs that we prepare each day for Survival Dispatch News. So it has all the links and everything in order you can follow along with, or, go at your own pace. Early access to content. You get our 228-page Essentials guide. You get 50% off all of our other SDI magazines. And we started a thing a week ago today, a group on Signal. We were going to do this live after the live where we go over and answer questions on Patreon. But the way things have worked out is that if you are a paying insider, download and install Signal on your phone, then email your phone number to support@survivaldispatch.com, and we will send you an invite to this private Signal group. You have to have Signal installed and configured. It has to be tied to your phone number, and you can't find the group. It's not something that would show up in a search. You have to send the request to our support email. We'll be happy to add you. Jeff, I don't know if you've been following it or not, but the volume of engagement on that Signal channel for 1 week is unbelievable. We're rapidly approaching 50 people signed up for it in a week.
I'll go to bed. Intimidating. I get up in the morning because I'm in the west, out west, so you guys are up before me. And I log on to Signal. I'm like, 428 messages. Holy shit. It's like, what happened overnight? And it's just everybody talking.
It's incredible, to be quite frank, and couldn't be happier that it's struck a chord with people. And the idea originally was, okay, as long as the data network stays up, if something bad happens, this is how we'll push out intel, get the word out to people, whatever the case may be. And then I started thinking, well, it's a better way to go about the live after the live, because it's 24/7, 365, and we can all keep an eye on it. S2 has been super active in there, dropping intel on our insiders and engaging them in conversation. So yeah, I'm like you. I went to bed the other night ago. There's 124. So I swiped it, marked all as red, got up the next morning, and there was like another 150 or something like that. And it's fantastic. It's really good. It's was an unintended consequence, but very happy with the way it turned out. So let me pull up the first one here, first video that I've got. So tonight, by the way, we're going to cover all the highlights of Trump's rally in Madison Square Gardens last night. I'm happy to report that I was wrong. I didn't think that it was a great place for Trump to be at this particular point in time because of the opportunity for a terrorist attack. You've got subways running underneath Madison Square Gardens. It's a huge venue, but it's extremely iconic, and I'm glad to report I was wrong and nothing bad happened. It was all good stuff that happened. Figuratively speaking, go ahead.
Say, it was the worst Nazi rally I have ever seen. Not a single swastika. There were Jewish people there, black people, Hindus. The Nazis have really, they've really slipped from their A game. Just saying.
So, I mean, we're going to start with a video clip from MSNBC, propaganda-tainment, just brutal. And they've been, of course, everybody's aware of this, just like you alluded to right now. They've been trying to spin this narrative, that Trump loves Hitler and was trying to reenact, Hitler's performance in 1939, blah, 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 blah. And, here's the deal. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize if you keep doing the same thing, you will keep getting the same results. It's Einstein's definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted that here we are in the home stretch of this election, third time Donald Trump has run, and they're still using the same playbook. Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump's supporters are Nazis, blah, blah, blah. I can't for the life of me figure out how they think this is going to work. And here's what kills me is I despise Obama, like absolutely despise him. I think he's the worst thing that ever happened to our country. But I also recognize he's very intelligent and he's a formidable adversary to go up against because he's always operating in the shadows doing shady things. It just blows me away that someone at his level of intelligence would continue to down this path. So let's hear what MSNBC has to say here, because it's the stuff. It's at the point now where it's just flat out ridiculous.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within.
I got to stop right there. This is the projection crap from the Democrats. Donald Trump never said he would use the military against Americans. It's the Biden admin that very quietly on September 27th updated DOD Directive 5240.01 with very vague language that any law enforcement agency in the country, whether it be city, PD, feds, or anything in between, requests assistance that the U.S. military could use lethal force against Americans on American soil. We're back to this projection stuff. And that lie in particular really irks me. And it's the reason you keep hearing me say that when we get Trump back in power, we need meaningful legislation that says, okay, if you're a broadcast news organization like MSNBC and you knowingly broadcast complete and utter bullshit, you're going to lose your broadcast license. And I've seen Trump discussing that more so recently than ever before. So let's play out the last 16 seconds of this and then we'll move on.
Who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
So let me share.
Carter was nominated there. And
exactly.
Bill Clinton the first time.
I think we have some clips on that coming up. I want to show the two main dead tree format newspapers in New York, as far as like, I don't know what you would call it, kind of like the National Enquirer, just different. But New York Post has come out and endorsed Trump. And here's the cover of the New York Post this morning. And conversely, here's the cover of the New York Daily News. Racist, racist, racist. Just complete and utter bullshit. And I collect this sort of stuff when people make these sort of images because you never know when we might use them for a thumbnail or something like that. Team unity, I mean, couldn't be more accurate. Look at the people that he's brought together here, right? You've got lifelong Democrats, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. You've got Elon Musk, who's been a Democrat for years. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, he is a super smart guy. Say what you want about him. I've met him in person, had a great conversation, and I really like him. J.D. Vance, I'm not 100% settled on him, and I don't necessarily believe he's 100% incorruptible. Regardless, he's one of the best debaters I have ever seen. You better be pretty sharp on your game if you're going to challenge J.D. Vance. I mean, he absolutely slaughtered Jake Tapper, over the weekend. Like, it was a bloodbath. And you can see Jake Tapper getting extremely frustrated by it. And I think we have a couple clips tonight. If not, they'll be in tomorrow night's, because from here on, we're going to be covering the election cycle for the foreseeable future pretty much every night, or a byproduct of it, which is why we're doing a special on grid down and why we've got some specialized subject matter experts coming on for that, because grid down is a serious terrorist opportunity. I doubt you would see the entire nation, but you could see some pretty big sections. So, Jeff, give me your thoughts on. I have a very specific question on the left, the liberals, the commies, whatever you want to call them, still using the same strategy and still getting the same results. All they're doing is they're promoting Donald Trump at this stage.
It's frustration. You can see it when they started pulling out the Nazi stuff. It's because every other lie they've trotted out hasn't stuck, and it's not new. They did it to Bush Sr., Bush Jr., Reagan, Ford, Nixon. I mean, every Goldwater, every Republican running for office since World War II, except for maybe Eisenhower, the Democrats have come out and called him a Nazi. It's kind of hard to call Eisenhower a Nazi since he defeated the Nazis, but it's just their standard thing. And people say, well, yeah, but you accuse them of being communists and socialists. Well, the only difference is they are communists and socialists. The policies they're putting forward are 100% socialist: redistribution of wealth, equity as opposed to equality, the whole affirmative action nonsense. That's all socialism. And dumbing down the schools, making them ineffective, so you have an educated elite and then everybody else who they are just the minions, the useful idiots. That's what they want. That's what happened in the Soviet Union. So yeah, they're desperate. Nothing's working. The whole joy thing didn't stick. Trump's going to destroy the country. He's going to kick out all the illegals, and they were shocked when America goes, yeah, okay, that's a good thing. I like them. Let me vote for him harder. They don't get it that the stuff that they're trying to get everybody mad about, when it boils down to any truthful parts of it, people go, yeah, I like that. I like having law and order. I like having a secure border. I like having low inflation and low gasoline prices and low cost of food. And yeah, what's wrong with that? So this is their last ditch. He's Hitler. Sadly, I think there's a lot of kids these days have no freaking clue who Hitler is, simply because they've been educated by the leftists who've taken history out of school.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I've seen polls that say somewhere between 64 and 80% of Americans support mass deportations. I never thought we would see that, especially, with the Democrats. But as per usual, you got to click through to the actual source of the poll. Then you got to scroll to the bottom, find the fine print. And then you got to click on what methodologies they used so that you can get an idea on how accurate it is. So when they show these polls neck and neck, every single one of them, if you click through and you get to the bottom of it, they oversampled Democrats by a huge margin. Instead of 40% Democrat, 40% Republican, 20% independents, you'll see 60% Democrat, 30% Republican, 10% independent. So it's not surprising that they get those types of numbers. But I can tell you from the numbers that have been shared with me, I have a former employee who's part of Trump's team in South Florida. And I also have a good friend, Jason Wilson, who does this stuff for a living. And the spread is more like 70-30, give or take a couple points. This is going to be, as long as we all do what we have to do, which means everybody's got to get out and vote, this will be way too big to rig. And I'm predicting that we could potentially see, even with the cheating on the other side, Trump win 45 plus states. And I also think that he will win the popular vote as well, which will make the liberals' heads absolutely explode. So either way, I want to just make sure that we're crystal clear. Everybody has to vote. Don't get complacent because we're seeing this tidal wave of support for Donald Trump. We absolutely have to get out and do what we need to
make this like Alabama football, run up the score.
Yep, exactly. So let me pull up some additional articles here. So as you can see at the top of the screen, Donald Trump, are you better off with me gone? Let's have a listen to this. This is fairly early in his address last night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much to a very popular former First Lady, hopefully First Lady again. And I just want to say a very big hello to a special place, New York, and to an incredible arena, Madison Square Garden. Incredible. And then we have all of the people that could fill it up 10 times. You take a look at outside what's going on all the way down to the river, the beautiful, beautiful Hudson River. They're outside watching this now at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They've never had it. And I want to thank Jim Dolan. He's been incredible. He's been just incredible. The job they've done. Thank you. But I'm thrilled to be back in the city I love, and thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. You're with me. We're all together. We've always been together. And I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote in this election, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country, and I will bring back the American dream. We need the American dream to come back home. Our country will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before.
So, question, Jeff, and then I want to pose it to the audience as well. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, not really. When you think about, especially, inflation is the main thing. And then you look at what's going on in Arizona because of the border. Are we safer? No. There's more crime. Is there more crime? Yes. We're fortunate in that we're kind of in an isolated area surrounded by like-minded people. But if I was in downtown Tucson, I'd be looking for a way the hell out of there. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'd like to know if anybody in our audience we're on broadcasting to a half a dozen different platforms. If you are better off today than you were 4 years ago, please put it into the chat. I'd like to hear that. Myself, here's a great example. We were paying $1,200 a year for insurance on the same home that we live in now, and now we pay $5,000 a year in insurance. It's absolutely bullshit. Electric bills used to run in the neighborhood of $250 a month. Now they're $400 a month. And it's just Cindy and I, we're empty nesters. We have no kids living with us or anything like that. And then you have the whole food thing and groceries. We are nowhere near as well off as we were 4 years ago, and we can't get Trump back in office as fast as possible. Mike Gunner just got off of work. Let me see here if I can get this up here. Just got off work, and by the look of my paycheck, nope, not better off. I mean, that's the same thing that we keep hearing. It's the same pressure that we're feeling economically here as well. So, and I think it's pretty safe to say that other than, call it the oligarchs, technocrats, whatever, nobody's doing better except for those guys.
Yeah,
really, at the end of the day, they put us on a path to kill America. And again, we can't get Trump back soon enough. So in that vein of you mentioning communism, socialism, here's our favorite bartender telling us that we are complete idiots for supporting Trump because Trump is, there's the quote right there. That was a hate rally last night. So I hate like hell to give her 2.5 minutes of our time, but you keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer so that you know what they're up to. So let's have a listen to what this, low IQ, low information bartender has to say.
So, Congressman, last night, right here in New York City, your hometown, Donald Trump held a packed rally at Madison Square Garden, and a number of speakers used downright racist and offensive language, no more so than the so-called comedian who said that Puerto Rico was an island of garbage. Can you just give us your reaction to what you heard last night, just hours and hours of frankly, hate, and what, frankly, how it could electrify this electorate?
Well, there's a couple of things. As you mentioned, this was a hate rally. This was not just a presidential rally. This was also not just a campaign rally. I think it's very important for people to understand that these are mini January 6 rallies. These are mini Stop the Steal rallies. These are rallies to prime an
Mini J6 rally. These people are just idiots. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Electorate into rejecting the results of an election if it doesn't go the way that they want, because Donald Trump and that entire cadre of people up on that stage, Stephen Miller, etc., do not respect the law of the United States of America. And they either want to win this election or they are using rhetoric of taking it by force. That is what they mean, and that's what they're doing when they are inciting violence and hatred against Latinos, against Black Americans, against Americans who don't have children, you have J.D. Vance literally talking about watering down people's right to vote, depending on if they can viably carry a child or not. You have to understand how unhinged this campaign has gotten. And the only reason that the rhetoric has gotten this far is precisely because they are trying to prime the kind of froth that led up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And so it's very important that we connect those dots. And right now the campaign is scrambling and they're trying to blame this rhetoric on a so-called comedian. This is not a comedian. This is the Trump campaign. They invited this rhetoric on their stage for a reason. It was a chorus of speakers on that campaign for a reason. It was vetted and they knew exactly who was going to say what before they went on. And so the only backtracking that they're doing right now is just because tens of thousands of Puerto Ricans happen to live in Philadelphia, Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, and also the several swing seats in the House of Representatives that run through the state of New York. And they're just realizing that they might have made a big error by saying out loud what they're thinking.
I don't even know where to start, Jeff. I mean, I don't know how you go from being a bartender to a multimillionaire by becoming an actor in Congress, but she pulled it off. But the lies these people tell, that's what I keep coming back to. So you can't suspend somebody like her. You can't suspend a broadcast license because she doesn't have one. She's a guest.
Right.
What can we do about this? There has to be some truth in broadcasting.
You vote them out of office. I mean, you can't put politicians in jail for lying. Otherwise, the jails would be full of politicians because all politicians lie. I'm sorry. She is particularly stupid. She was like a bartender and a barista. And I think that was, the Peter Principle says you'll rise to the level of your incompetence. Well, she's exceeded hers by leaps and bounds. But then again, so is Kamala Harris. She's the perfect, the people of New York at some point have to be embarrassed of her and have to say, we need somebody representing us who has a couple of gray cells to rub together in her head. Because she's just dumb as a bag of hammers. She has no concept of the law. She has no concept of the Constitution. She certainly has no idea how the economy actually works. She's just stupid. And New York elected her probably because she was a cute girl. But I mean, it's like, really, you're gonna let your hormones make your voting decisions for you?
Yeah, but no offense, but that comment makes the assumption that she legitimately won her seat. And I do not believe that there has been a legitimate federal election since Woodrow Wilson, with the exception of JFK and Donald Trump in 2016. It's all theater. I think they've cheated their asses off all along, and that 99.9% of politicians are installed, not voted into place.
Well, she's from New York. She's from a district that would, the only reason they don't vote for Mao is because he's dead and can't get enough signatures to get on the ballot. She's from an uber liberal part of New York. And like I said, they would, I'm surprised that, they would elect a cherry pie because it's red, and that's all they care about.
So I don't know how deep you went in today's brief, but we actually have a clip of a Chinese lady in New York who just goes off on Kamala, pro-Trump, anti-Kamala,
Yeah,
and it's going to come up at some point here. Can't recall exactly where it is in the program, but let's move on to the next one, only because you already alluded to all of this. So you should speak to this since you brought the topic up. And this is, 1992, DNC nominated Bill Clinton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe just recap this briefly for the sake of our audience. Who else has used Madison Square Gardens, right?
Everybody's used Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's so stupid. Of course they have. It's like, hey, somebody played at the Meadowlands, therefore everybody else who plays at the Meadowlands must share the same, political opinions as that person. I was saying, well, gee, Adolf Hitler wore pants, and you know who else wears pants? Donald Trump. Therefore, Trump is Hitler because they both wear pants. It's that stupid.
It is, isn't it? I mean, it truly is. So let's move on to the next one here, because this is really, really interesting. So this guy says, I don't think people realize this is the closest Elon will come to being involved in government, and what an opportunity it is. So I'm not going to read the whole screen, but what I am going to show is this. And at first I thought it was, something like a meme content until I dove into it. These are the SpaceX Raptor rocket engines. 2020 on the left, 2024 on the right. And the point that this person is making is that Elon is exceptionally good at assembling teams that are super efficient and on the cutting edge of stuff. And it's a pretty good graphic when you think of it. The 2020 is kind of like, here's what we've got under Obama for the third term, just a mess of pipes and wires. And here's what we're going to get under Donald Trump again on the right for 2024. I mean, I think pulling Elon Musk in was a brilliant move on Donald Trump's part. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I feel that he's put a clinic on here's how you build a coalition. Here's the art of the deal. What cracks me up with Trump is that people who've said bad things about him in the past, he has the ability to get over his ego and pull them in when it's a good idea, when it's a win situation. And he doesn't have the balls bigger than the brain syndrome, which is what I call it. If you got any comments on Elon before we move to the next one, Jeff?
Well, but I think that picture is a classic example of what I hope he can do figuratively to the U.S. government. Having worked for the federal government for 26 years, it is a monumentally inefficient organization. It is the least efficient way anywhere in the world to deliver a good or service. You want to waste money, give it to the government. It's almost like the old thing about airlines. And it says, how do you make $1 million? It says, how do you become a millionaire? Start with $1 billion and then buy an airline. But that's the government. How do you come up with $500,000? Well, give the government $1 million and tell them to distribute, because they'll take half of it, and then maybe if you're lucky, they'll give the other half to someone. You look at the Department of Education; they give out grants to schools, but the institution itself, the bureaucracy itself, spends billions of dollars that don't do anything. They don't educate anyone. Things like that just need to go. I mean,
especially the Department of Education. They took us from number 1 in the world to number 24, I think you said last time.
425, something like that. Well, you've got a Department of Agriculture that pays farmers not to grow crops. Okay, that makes sense. You got a Department of Energy that produces zero energy and has actually made our grid less stable. It has made our energy supply less stable. We are, it's just asinine that why are they here? They're making things worse, not better. They should go away.
So there's another angle of this, and I agree with everything that you've just said. The other angle is that they use this as a cudgel. So in other words, you're going to do this thing. So I'm not sure what the statute was. I could go look it up, but I want to say it was right around the time we got hit by Matthew, that HUD went to all the municipalities in the country and said, you either, put in place these provisions for Section 8 housing, or we're going to pull funding for all these other things. And we're talking stuff that was outside of HUD.
Yeah.
And the Department of Education is a good example. So you will do what we tell you to do, from a HUD perspective, or we're going to kill all this funding for, your education system. That they really use it to beat people over the head.
Well,
and maybe we should do an episode on that in itself. The corruption and the leveraging is.
Well, remember when we had a fuel crisis, an oil crisis, and they lowered the speed limits from 75 to 55. And a lot of states, especially out west, where they're just big, wide open spaces and it takes forever to get from point A to point B, were reluctant to do that. So what did they do? If you don't lower your speed limit, we're going to cut off your federal funds. They did the exact same thing with the drinking age. When I was in Arizona as a kid growing up, the drinking age was 19. They wanted to raise it to 21. And some states said, well, why? If you're 18, you can be drafted into the Army and carry a gun and shoot somebody. Can't you at least have a beer? But they said, if you don't raise your drinking age to 21, we'll cut off all your highway funds.
That's right.
And so they just blackmailed states. And the thing is, the money for the highway funds comes from the gasoline tax that the people in the states are paying in. This isn't like some gift. It is they're taking money from them and then deciding how much, if any, they give them back. And if you don't do what they say, they'll take your money but never give it back.
Well, and the example you gave is probably the most egregious one that comes to mind for me: the drinking age and funding for your interstates and roads.
Yeah,
they should have never been conflated. And again, we have a federal government that's under the control of our enemies and has completely run amok. And you're more of a constitutional expert than I am, but I always come back to the founding fathers' intention was for a very small federal government to look after things like immigration, national defense, and that we are the United States of America, these 50 autonomous states. I don't know if I've mentioned this when you were on an episode or not, but I'll tell you a really quick anecdotal study. So I did some consulting for Mercedes-Benz out of North Carolina. And in order to get you would know this as an engineer, to get that pinky ring to be a professional engineer in Europe, you have to have hands-on experience. You have to do, basically co-op stuff, right? And so there would be a pretty consistent influx of these senior students that were in university studying for their professional engineer ticket that would come here. So I get an email from these two guys that I worked with a couple of times, and they said, hey, we have a couple extra days off. We're going to drive down to the Keys. We were wondering if you'd like to do lunch tomorrow. And I said, yeah, sure, of course. So they show up the next day and they started rhyming off all of these things. And they were in the Raleigh area, and they started saying, we never expected America to be X, Y, or Z. And I looked at them and I said, it's not. And they said, yes, it is. We've seen this now for the past 6 months, whatever it was. And I said, no, I said, each one of our states have a high level of autonomy. And what you're seeing is describing what you're seeing in the Raleigh area. It's not even applicable to other parts of North Carolina, let alone the entire country. And the one guy said to me, he said, well, there's got to be something, that ties American culture together coast to coast. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, yeah, leadership. And they took that as an initial affront. And they were like, well, we have great leaders in Germany. And my reply was, I'm sure you do have great leaders in Germany. That's not what I'm saying. We program our children from the youngest of ages to exhibit leadership in every possible way of defining that word. So I said to them, have you seen the little kids playing American football? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, that's Pop Warner football. And I said, when you have a player who doesn't have the captain's C on their jersey extend a hand to help an opposing player up off the ground, that is leadership at that moment in time. And I do not believe for a minute that any country pushes the concept of leadership like we do. And I said, this is going back, by the way, early 2000s. So I said to them, I said, when you go home, I would encourage you to ask some World War II vets, German World War II vets, what they thought of fighting the Americans. And I said, I'm telling you right now what they're going to tell you. It's been standard military protocol forever and a day that if you take the leader out, your opposition typically, throw the white flag in, right? And I said, and that doesn't happen. When somebody kills a leader, whether it's a squad or a whole freaking battalion, somebody else will instantly fill that void and take on the leadership role and keep on pressing. And I did get an email from them quite some time later saying, you were right. They absolutely hated fighting you guys for that very specific reason. So anyway, I digress. I think I told that story once, here on SDN a couple years ago, but it's worth repeating. And I have company here. Yeah, what do you want, buddy? That's his name, by the way, Buddy. So when I call him Buddy, it's because it's his name. I tell you what he wants. He wants to get up in the chair with me and sit in my lap. But when we have him in the truck, he'll do everything in his power to get in whoever's lap is driving. He's crazy. But anyway, moving on from there, let's see. So I've got a clip of Elon speaking last night, and we'll listen to that before we move on any further.
All right, I've only got one question for you, and then I'm getting out of here because this is your stage. But we set up Doge.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it's either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook. And America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
So we just discussed government inefficiency. So I'm going to move on to the next clip before we stop to have a conversation.
The energy last night was palpable in the room. The spirit, it was happiness and joy. And it was such a diverse group of people in that stadium, packed to the house. There wasn't an empty seat. You had Black Americans, Latino Americans, Jewish Americans, men, women of all ages coming in support of President Trump, and unafraid to show it, by the way, even in the streets here of very liberal New York City, which I think there's a chance of getting very red after last night. President Trump's message was optimistic. And I loved what Mrs. Trump said. She said, New York is a city of hope and dreams. You have people bustling from office to office to make a living. And those dreams are becoming unattainable because of Democrat policies. And I think President Trump offered a real message of hope to New Yorkers and all Americans. And what an epic way to kick off.
Yeah, it was epic.
So I know you didn't get to tune into it last night, but you got some highlights today. I'm going to go with her exact word. It was epic. It was the right rally in the right venue at the right time to show the world how galvanized Donald Trump and his team are. I will not be surprised if he pulls off a win in New York State. What do you think the chances are of Donald Trump winning New York State?
Actually pretty slim, just because it's so entrenched. It's like an insane asylum. And what do you think the chances are that everybody in the insane asylum suddenly gets better all at once? I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong, but I have a lot of faith in the New Yorkers to stay New Yorkers. And I don't mean that in a good way.
I get your drift 100%. And I'm going to come back to the fact that I don't believe there have been legitimate elections since Woodrow Wilson. And even JFK and Trump weren't legitimate elections because the other side cheated their ass off. It just wasn't enough to offset the tsunami of support that JFK and Trump had. You know what? I've worked with and know a ton of people from New York State and California, and there are a ton of conservative, patriotic Americans in both of those states. And I don't believe for a minute that Dianne Feinstein, for example, was reelected for 50 years. She never held one campaign event her entire career. Not one. I don't believe it. That she was installed. She was not elected. And I think that cancer is applicable to our entire country. And I would not be surprised to see Donald Trump absolutely crush it in this election to the point where the Democrats throw in the towel and move to plan B, which we've discussed ad nauseum. But let's move on to the next one here. We've got a lot in tonight's brief. I want to try to cover all of it if possible.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
Let's be clear about one thing. The Republican comment, this is not about Republicans. The Republican Party, the Democrat Party, two different sides of the same coin. It just so happens to be the ticket that Donald Trump is running on. But this is the MAGA movement. This is not the Republicans. They don't deserve any credit for this whatsoever because they're all as crooked as a dog's hind leg. So,
and modern Democrats are not like old Democrats either. The Democratic Party of JFK has been dead for decades.
Right.
They just kept the name.
And could not agree more. So again, here we are. This is a billboard outside of Madison Square Gardens last night where the DNC paid for ads. Trump praised Hitler, and he never did any such thing. And again, this is the stuff that really, really irks me is the lying, the constant lying, and, you know, placating the lemmings, for lack of a better term. So speaking of which, let's hear, you know, what shithead Tim Walz has to say on this particular topic.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden.
Hold on a second. I got to add that Google will turn your brain to shit, just like anything else that's owned by big tech. And anybody, this person shall remain unnamed, but we have a person in our circle that every time a topic comes up, they go to Google and then they turn around and preach to the rest of us that we're stupid because Google says X, Y, and Z. It's all curated bullshit in pursuit of their narrative. Man, stop using Google. It will turn your brain to shit. Use Yandex, Brave Search. Learn how to discern the difference between truth and fiction because Google is just, it is an absolute shit show. So much so that, by the way, I don't know if you caught this, Jeff, Andrew Bailey, our friend who's the attorney general in Missouri, is going after Google for election interference by putting anything that's even remotely positive towards Donald Trump on page 4 or 5 of the results. We know that 90% of the time people don't click anything below the fold, which is the bottom of the page. They don't scroll down past that. It is 100% election interference, and people got to get it through their skulls. Google is programming. That's all it is. So let's hear the last little bit of what this guy. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, yeah, they bury it so because again, nobody looks past the first page, and there's the running joke is if you want to get rid of if you want to hide a body, where do you put it where no one will find it? Page 2 of a Google search. Yeah, because no one goes there, and Trump's own campaign website will not appear in the first page of a Google search on Trump campaign.
Yeah, so before we play the rest, I want to address this comment that DuckDuckGo is good. DuckDuckGo is a little bit better than Google, but they're not good. DuckDuckGo has the woke virus in spades. And when this was first revealed to us was a few years ago, where a very accomplished programmer, coder, sent his resume in for consideration to be on the team at DuckDuckGo as an engineer. And they replied back, "We're not interested." So he took his resume and changed his name to a black female, changed his whole identity to a black female, sent it in, and within 24 hours got a response from DuckDuckGo saying, "You're exactly the candidate that we're looking for. How soon can you start?" And they hadn't even interviewed them. So DuckDuckGo is not that, you're talking Google's like 3 scoops of shit and DuckDuckGo's 2 scoops of shit. There's no other way to really describe it. The best ones for not pushing in a narrative at this particular point in time are yandex.com and search.brave.com. And here's the thing. If you go to a search engine and you punch in the question, "Can men get pregnant?" and your search engine says yes, it is a garbage woke piece of shit search engine. And that's exactly what DuckDuckGo does. So I just want to be really clear on that. So let's hear the rest of what this, jerk off has to say, Tim Walz, before we move on.
There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
He's so full of shit that his eyes are brown. So I don't even know who this actress is, Ellen Barkin. Name kind of rings a bell, but not so much. But pushes, she's pushing this boycott of MSG because of this Nazi rally. I mean, golly, like, give it a rest, you lying SOBs. So let's have a look at the next clip from last night.
But we're just not running against Kamala. I think a lot of our politicians here tonight know this. She means nothing. She's purely a vessel. That's all she is. When you see her up there talking about the grass on my front lawn, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood and I had grass on my front lawn. Yeah, but we're asking, what would you do to fix the country? And why didn't you do it? You had almost 4 years. Why didn't you do this stuff? Now she's becoming more MAGA than those politicians I just told you about from the different states. She can't put 2 sentences together. She's just like, she's really just like, in many ways, crooked Joe Biden. And she never said to us, she never told us that Joe was not functioning properly. She should have. Because, we're talking about the life of the most important country in the world. We need very smart people. We're running against something far bigger than Joe or Kamala and far more powerful than them, which is a massive, vicious, crooked, radical left machine that runs today's Democrat Party. They're just vessels. In fact, they're perfect vessels because they'll never give them a hard time. They'll do whatever they want. I know many of them. It's just this amorphous group of people. But they're smart and they're vicious. And we have to defeat them. And when I say the enemy from within, the other side goes crazy, becomes a sound. Oh, how can he say? No, they've done very bad things to this country. They are indeed the enemy from within. But this is who we're fighting. These are the people who are doing such harm to our country with their open border policies, record-setting inflation, Green New scam, and everything else that they're doing. But we're not going to let it happen any longer. We're going to have the biggest victory in the history of our country on November 5th. It's going to be the biggest victory in history. We're going to make them.
So we got a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to move on to the next one and play it before we pause again.
It's worth noting that while we showed you that joke about the pile of garbage that comedian made, he also said something else about Latino voters that I can't play because I know a lot of you are probably at the breakfast table with your little kids. And if we played it, you'd have to shut us off because it was so incredibly crude.
So that's a super short one. So I'm actually going to move to the next one.
Only Donald Trump could pull off something like that. I love the front page. I wish I'd brought one with me. The front page of the
New
New
York Post, I saw that, yeah.
MAGA Square Garden, really, truly. 20,000 people inside, tens of thousands of people waiting outside. I mean, he blew the roof off the place like the Rolling Stones or something.
Yeah.
One of probably the most iconic act ever to play Madison Square Garden. And it's a way to kick off the final stretch. The last 8 days, it was fantastic. So much excitement. It truly is a movement. Only Donald Trump could fill Madison Square Garden for a political event. It's the movement of MAGA that he kicked off 9 years ago.
All right, so I lied. I'm going to play one more.
He's liberated us in the deepest and truest sense. And the liberation he has brought to us is the liberation from the obligation to tell lies. Donald Trump has made it possible for the rest of us to tell the truth about the world around us. And that's the single most liberating thing you can do for people. If you want to enslave people, if you want to degrade them, force them to tell lies. And they have. They forced us to lie about everything at gunpoint, effectively. They put people in prison for refusing to lie. And not just the obvious lies that men can become women or Vladimir Putin blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. No, honestly, he did. January 6th was an insurrection. They were unarmed, but it was very insurrection-y. Not even the obvious ones, but the big lie. You know what the big lie is? The big lie is that they're impressive. That's what the big lie is. That the people in charge have somehow earned the right to rule over you, and they haven't. And you know that. These are the single most useless people in the United States. They have no skills whatsoever. They've got 3/4 of the money, and they didn't earn it. They set up a system precisely for the purpose of awarding themselves wealth and power when it's undeserved. You look at Liz Cheney and you ask yourself honestly, what skill could she possibly have that allowed her to send hundreds of thousands of people to their deaths? Did she earn that? I don't think she did. No fair system would make Liz Cheney powerful. No fair system would make Larry Fink rich. No fair system would elevate someone like Kamala Harris to a presidential nomination. She's never been accused of doing anything useful. She has precisely no achievements. She's a nominee without getting a single vote. She is a metaphor for the system they created to make themselves rich and powerful. And then they have the gall to lecture you, the people who can actually change a flat tire and repair a power grid, who have useful jobs, who pay your taxes and work 40 hours a week, lecture you that you are somehow immoral. And Donald Trump has empowered the rest of us through mostly just sticking around in the face of their hate and abuse and persecution. He has given the rest of us the right to call BS on the charade. No, you are not better than us.
All right, so good place to stop it there. I think Tucker Carlson nailed it there of how these people, you know, you call them oligarchs, whatever the case may be, have used the system you know, to shit on the American public and, you know, enrich themselves. How do you take somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who makes $170,000, $180,000 a year, worth $100 million? I mean,
you make insider trading legal for members of Congress. If anybody else did what she and other members of Congress have done, they'd be in prison and they'd pay millions of dollars in fine. The SEC, if they had a company, the SEC would shut it down. You know, it's easy to get away with stuff when you can define anything you do as being legal, whether it is or not. If somebody else does the exact same thing, it's illegal. And that's exactly what has happened. I mean, Congress has, it's just like when they passed, you know, Obamacare. You know who it didn't apply to? Congress. Right. They didn't have to go into any of those, you know, the what do they call them? You know, we had to go in and pick a plan or anything. No, they still got their plan, and they still have their retirement system. They still have all their, you know, all their perks, and that's why. And you know, they also made it to where they would do, you didn't have to even vote to give themselves a raise. They would just make it, okay, well, it's just part of the thing. We automatically get this raise every year or every 2 or 3 years. They used to have to vote on that publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And it became so embarrassing for them that when the country was doing poor and people were unemployed and they're giving themselves a 15% raise, that then they just changed the system so they don't have to vote on it publicly anymore. They still get the raise. They just don't vote on it.
So this is a good juncture for me to point out that it goes way beyond just financial interests and greasing the system for themselves. Past two elections, my family has voted for Michael Waltz, former Green Beret. He's the congressman for Flagler, Volusia Flagler counties. And I will never vote for him again. And I'm very vocal in making sure everybody in our area understands who he is and what he has become. So he's one of those people in Congress who voted against requiring a warrant to spy on you and me for FISA purposes, but made sure that it requires a warrant to surveil and eavesdrop on Congress people. He's another Congress critter. I criticize him every chance that I get, and I'm going to continue to criticize him. I've gotten letters from his office, his underlings, saying that I don't really understand the issue. There's nothing to understand. You just voted that the feds can spy on all of us with no oversight and no warrant being issued by a judge, but all of you who sit in Congress get a pass. Bullshit. It's wrong. If you live in Volusia Flagler County here, it's two counties, Volusia and Flagler, don't vote for Michael Waltz. Don't fall for the stick, that he's a Green Beret and stuff. Yeah, he was a Green Beret, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt at one point in time, but he's a self-serving Congress critter at the end of the day, and we can't have people like that representing us. All righty, so moving on to the next one. So let me preface this by saying my wife has watched Dr. Phil for many, many years. She really likes Dr. Phil. And the Dr. Phil show fell under Oprah's, banner, right? OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network. So Dr. Phil, you could tell, what direction he leaned in, but he had to couch his words very carefully because of that. So as soon as he retired from the Dr. Phil show and started his own network, the gloves came off, and he is a hardcore conservative libertarian mega guy. God bless him. And, I'm not a TV guy, never have been, but I would listen to him when my wife had it on and think to myself, he seems reasonably balanced. When I hear him speak now, I love it. I mean, he is absolutely our kind of people. So let's have a listen to what he had to say last night. We're only going to listen to part of it, but here we go.
And the legacy media has sold out. The legacy media has sold out. And I'll tell you, one night I was sitting at dinner with my wife, Robin, and I was complaining as we were flipping around and listening to the spin on what supposedly news. And I said, damn, I'm tired of listening to all this media spin and everything. And without even looking up, she said, well, you are the media. Why don't you do something about it? She said, you got bigger ratings than the four of them combined. Why don't you do something about it? Well, as usual, she was right. And that's why I launched the new network, because we want people to think for themselves. You guys aren't dumb. You don't need to be told what to think. You just need the facts. And you're here because you have the facts, right? You're here because you recognize when legacy media edits answers and gives you what they want you to hear instead of the truth. And when they start editing their candidates' answers, they've lost their moral compass. They've lost their way. And I would love to say it's equal on both sides, but I'll guarantee you, when Beyonce, George Clooney, De Niro, and Lizzo come out and say they're for Kamala Harris, when they all come out and say they're for Kamala Harris, did you read anything or hear anything in the media criticizing it? No. But you watch what happens tomorrow morning when people find out I came here to talk to you. You say this in Hollywood, and all of a sudden you ain't got a job. The problem is I don't need one. I don't need a job because I got you. And I've got a question for all of us. Have we lost our minds? We have the First Amendment in America where our government has said we will pass no laws to infringe on our freedoms for religion and speech. So that's the law, but we're muzzling each other. What is going on? We have a law that protects free speech, so we start taking it away from each other? Are you kidding me?
So, Jeff, first question. Do you have an opinion of Dr. Phil, and has it changed at all since he walked away from the Oprah Winfrey Network?
Yeah, I mean, I catch him every once in a while. I wasn't I like the guy, but it's daytime TV and I worked, so I didn't ever see him. But when I'd catch it every once in a while, he always made sense. And when it was, talking about relationships and stuff, it was common sense. It's like, okay, your husband's cheated on you 3 times. Why in the hell are you still with him? Kind of questions, instead of, oh, you got to get to the root of why he cheated. Well, he's a pig. That's why he cheated. And so I've always liked his common sense approach. And it did not surprise me at all. He's a good old boy from Texas, that he had these opinions, but he was part of Harpo Productions, Oprah Winfrey's company, and he couldn't say it.
Yep.
But now he can. It's just like Dave Ramsey when he endorsed Trump. He says, well, you can't fire me because I own the show. And it's the same kind of thing. You get people who have that kind of, they're in a position of almost being bulletproof. You almost need that before you can get out and say what you want. James Woods, he does it. Of course, he's wealthy. He's a producer. He's making movies and he does all sorts of stuff. But he's always been that way. He's always been a very outspoken conservative. And there's a couple others in Hollywood that are like that. Mel Gibson, same thing. But he's powerful enough and wealthy enough. He can afford to say, kiss my ass, I'll just do it myself. But there's very few of them out there that are in that position. I think you'll see Mark Wahlberg is one that is also conservative.
Yes.
And he got his family the hell out of California.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Wahlberg, decent guy. I think the problem in Hollywood and why we see them, so vocally going after Trump and Trump supporters is that the people in Hollywood are no different than the people in Washington, D.C., where at some point in time they were drunk or high and somebody set them up knowing what their proclivities are, little boys, little girls, all this disgusting stuff. And the next thing you know, they've got evidence of it and they basically say, you do our bidding or we're going to let the cat out of the bag, and they lord it over them. And I used to think that sort of stuff was the realm of conspiracy theories, It's not conspiracy theories. And it has happened repeatedly over and over again. How many people on the Epstein list have been named?
Well, Prince Andrew. That's it.
Point being is that, they've closed ranks, right? Well, especially when it comes to this child sex trafficking stuff. But I would say it was before Trump's first term was up. I came to the conclusion that anytime I hear a Congress critter or somebody from Hollywood go hard against Trump, that they had skeletons in their closet and that they were being lorded over them by the powers that be. So I instantly jump to that right away. Now, when somebody does it, I think, God, what did this scumbag do?
Well, we had a joke in the agency. It was like, some Russian guy coming up to you, tries to be nice and recruit you, and you say no, and he finally says, no, you must work with us. We have a picture of you naked with duck.
100%. So let's move on to RFK Jr. I got to admit, I don't agree with everything, the positions that RFK holds and has held over the years. I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. Donald Trump is putting on an absolute clinic of how you create a unified team. It's unbelievable. And some of these people, like RFK Jr., will say, look, I don't agree with Trump on this, that, and the other thing, but he's by far and away the best chance to save the republic. It's kudos to Donald Trump for pulling off what he's pulled off. It's absolutely amazing. So let's hear what RFK had to say.
A lot of people ask me why I left the Democratic Party. And I say, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. This is not the party anymore of Martin Luther King, of Robert Kennedy, of John Kennedy. That was the party of peace. It was the party of constitutional rights, of civil rights, of freedom of speech. It was the party that wanted to protect and nurture the middle class. It was the party that stood up to censorship, to surveillance, that stood up to the CIA, to the military complex, military-industrial complex. And it was the party that wanted to protect public health and women's sports. My uncle, Ted Kennedy, wrote Title IX, which protected women's sports in college. It was the party that believed in voting rights and fought for the right of every American to vote for the person of their choice. Today's Democratic Party is the party of war. It's the party of the CIA. You had Kamala Harris giving a speech at the Democratic Convention that was written by neocons. It was belligerent, pugnacious. It talked about the domination of the world by the United States through our weapons of war. It's the party today that wants to divide Americans. It's the party that is dismantling women's sports by letting men play women's sports.
So there's another 5 minutes or so of his speech, and he did a great job. It's unfortunate that he has the issues that he does with his vocal cords, but very, very smart guy, very, very well spoken. And I stopped that for a specific reason, Jeff. I personally think that when it comes to men competing in women's sports, these mentally ill men, that as long as that's allowed to happen, that the women competitors need to boycott those events and go set up their own event that is unsanctioned, has nothing to do with whatever the sanctioning body is, and literally step away from the whole charade. And if we're going to pander to these people, which I think that needs to be shut down, and that's a whole other episode, at the very least there needs to be men's competitions, women's competitions, and mentally ill transgender competitions in the middle or something like that. So I stopped that specifically there because, again, the Democrats are the one pushing this narrative of how you can be whatever gender you want, blah, blah, blah. What would your solution be to this conundrum in sports in particular, and these weak men destroying women's sports?
Well, there should be just a flat out ban. If you have a Y chromosome, you have to compete against men, period. End of discussion. No matter this. Don't care how you identify. Don't care if you've had your genitalia removed and breast implants put in. Doesn't matter. You got a Y chromosome. You're a dude. If it's a Y, you're a guy. You got to play against guys. It's gonna be hard sell nationwide because you've got these liberal, California and Oregon and New York. So what you do is you say, okay, we're going to have a men's division, a women's division, and an open division, which anybody can be in the open division. So what that will be is the real men division, the women's division, and the sissy man division, because Yeah, because the women won't go into the open division. Why would they bother? They'll just go to the women's division. And the real men won't want to go into the open division because they're like, okay, they're a bunch of soy boys. I don't know, that doesn't prove anything. You may get more soy boys because that's the only way they can win a medal. But people will laugh at it. It'll be the participation trophy of the Olympics, and nobody will give a rat's ass. No world records are going to be set in the soy boy division or by people in the soy boy division. Period.
That's funny that you would say participation trophies, because that was the thought that was going through my head as you were talking about the sissy division.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, if you're Mike Tyson, yeah, okay, I'll go into the open division, for 5 minutes, win the gold medal with, I'll do 5 rounds, 5 punches, knock out 5 people, collect the gold medal, and then go back to the men's division where I belong. I'll collect all the prize money from the sissy division. I'll make those guys starve. I'll take the money, but it's not going to be. The trannies aren't going to win it.
There was a power lifter in Great Britain who showed up at an event and said, I'm using, she, her pronouns now, and I'm going to enter this event as a female, annihilated all of the records, and then said, okay, I'm changing my pronouns back to he, him, just to draw attention to the whole thing.
Well, there was one in Canada where a trans female or trans male, what do you want to call it? A woman, a guy pretending to be a woman, entered the thing and set like some national record in weightlifting. But their rules were real lax on how you could qualify. So a male weightlifter, big guy, beard, the whole 9 yards, goes, today I'm female. Signed up, shattered that guy's record, the tranny's records, with the tranny there watching, blew all of his records out by like 150 pounds, so the guy will never be able to touch him. And then says, okay, I'm a guy now. But the records had to stand. He goes, well, if they stood for that guy, they got to stand for me. So the women's powerlifting records in Canada are set by a man, a real man, and will never be touched, which is a shame for the women.
It is a massive setback for women's rights.
Yeah,
and
it is. It's ridiculous.
I don't recall the precise numbers, but that Leah Thomas, a mentally ill dude competing as a female swimmer, I don't remember again what the exact number was, but he was something like number 400, ranked number 400 in the NCAA rankings while he was competing as a woman and shattering all the records.
Yeah,
the whole thing comes
in rankings.
Yeah, the whole thing comes back to our government and institutions is under the direct control of our enemies, and they're doing everything they can to divide and conquer us. And again, Todd Callender and I will have an episode soon where we're going to propose a bunch of laws that need to be considered. And we're both libertarians, lowercase l, so it sucks to have to do this, but basically state, like you did, if you have XY chromosomes, you can't compete in women's sports. You're not a woman. So, all right. Well, moving on from there, this one really surprised me. I'm guessing you probably caught it because you're very well read. But when the ultra liberal mayor of New York City comes out defending Trump, again, we're seeing a clinic being put on by Donald Trump. I mean, this guy has taken hit after hit after hit. He's been shot. He's been shit all over by other politicians and mainstream media. They're going to try and lock him up in Rikers on November 26th. I'll bet my, every penny I've got on that. So when Eric Adams comes out in defense of Donald Trump, that's definitely saying something. And he's not the only one. There's been other very prominent Democrats that have done that as well. So I got another short video here with Elon, and let's hear what he has to say with regards to the margin of victory here.
Make the margin of victory so big that you know what can't happen. Massive, overwhelming sweep of every swing state, and even some of the states that people don't think are swing states. Massive, crushing victory. Get everyone, friends, family, people on the street. Put the signs up, put the hat on. Let's go.
I think Elon is, he's like a little kid at heart, and he's been very animated in his support of Donald Trump. So that's funny stuff. Here's the not so funny stuff. This is who's been running our federal government basically on behalf of Obama. So I absolutely cannot stand Susan Rice. Again, she is the one who's been running the show in the White House. And I'll show you something on that shortly here. But let's just listen to the beginning of this crap.
They're terrified of, effective, smart, strong women and leaders in the United States. Secondly, they embrace and laud and praise dictators like Xi and Putin, with whom they want to become closer when they are our most formidable adversaries. These people are dangerous. Donald Trump hugs dictators. He's about to have a rally reminiscent of 1939, cheering on Nazi Germany. The people who've spoken in that rally already have been a litany of attacks on Black voters, on Latino voters, on Arab American voters. I mean, that's the divisive, dark, evil threat that Donald Trump poses, all encapsulated right there at Madison Square Garden.
Okay, I don't want to listen to any more of her bullshit. So
hey, she got the talking points memo. So
yeah. So I want to share this tab as well. We briefly covered it on a previous episode of Survival Dispatch News. But Susan Rice lives where that balloon is, top left corner, White House, bottom right corner. The direct route to the White House is shown, where it says as an arrow pointing in the middle. And Obama has a home in Kalorama off of the direct path. And I can tell you right now that people on our side of the equation at a very, very, very high level have had Susan Rice under surveillance since January 21st, 2021. And there are countless records now of her leaving home, going to Obama's home, leaving Obama's home with a portfolio under her arm that she didn't have when she went in, going to the White House, and essentially delivering Obama's orders. And we know that they're Obama's orders because that intelligence that's been placed on Obama's home when Susan Rice stops in there, they also have equipment where they've been able to listen in on some of the conversations. This is not conspiracy theory stuff. This is the fact of the matter. And thank God we have people like that on our side. So, Jeff, you come from that clandestine CIA. Give me your thoughts on how easy or how hard it would be for Susan Rice to pull off all the stuff that I just mentioned.
It'd be remarkably easy. Yeah, people know her name, but I bet you, 99 people out of 100 couldn't pick her out of a lineup. So, she's just a, older woman. And, just like if she was an older white woman or anything else, she just kind of, they just kind of blend. Obama, 100% recognizable. Michelle Obama, 100% recognizable. So you get somebody who is the gray man, or in this case, the gray woman, to be your courier. And that's all she is. And if Obama were walking into the White House every day or every other day, it'd be news. People would see him, they would recognize it, and they would say, okay, what the hell's going on? But this middle-aged Black woman walking into the White House every day, they might go, okay, she's just a staffer. I don't know who she is. Maybe she's just a secretary. Maybe she's an admin assistant. Maybe she, you never know. You don't know. She could be, it's just like an old man walking in there. He could be the gardener for all you know. So she is not recognizable in that makes her perfect. I mean, when you put up her picture, I was like, is that her? Oh, yeah, I guess that is her. I hadn't seen her in a while.
I mean, there's no nice way to state this. She is a vile, repugnant person.
Well, I don't disagree with that at all. But she also is unremarkable in her
100
appearance, in that you don't remember her.
100%. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to state for the record that she's a vile and repugnant person, and part of that Obama inner circle, her, Eric Holder, and the rest of them. And when I was told that they put Obama's Colorama home under surveillance the day after Biden was sworn in, I did like a quick look up and said thank you, because thank God there's really, really smart people on our side of the equation fighting for this stuff, especially against people like her. She's not stupid. Just like I said, Obama's not stupid. She's not stupid. These people are formidable foes to go up against, and they're not just going to throw in the towel. So to have really astute, talented people on our side setting up the counter steal, whatever you want to call it, it's important. It means something. So let's move on here to the next post. And Tim Young says, "This is my new favorite person. Kamala is so stupid. This is the Chinese lady that I mentioned earlier, and it's absolutely hilarious."
Chinese first generation, we love Trump from our bottom of the heart, because we know Trump is the only one can save America. Kamala is so stupid. She is so low. IQ equal no Q, no qualification to be the president. You shall stay away from that position. You already lost the position. You lost our trust. You lost our vote. You just need to go home, to stay home. You cannot do anything to save America. You are so stupid. You don't know anything. You cannot even answer any question from the camera, from all the media. How you can be on the stage to fight for America, to protect American people, to protect all the world. You are not qualified. You just need to go home. Right? Trump to save America, to save the world, to put America first. If America to be strong, to be saved, and then America can save the whole world. Trump, we love you. We love you forever. Never ever surrender. Fight, fight, fight. Fight for Trump. Fight, fight, fight.
Oh my God, she's awesome. I love that. I'm going to play a couple more, Jeff, just so we can accelerate things a little bit.
All right.
But here's and you can comment on our new favorite Chinese person in a second. I just want to move along because we've been at it for over an hour and a half now.
The Nazis were supposed to be here. That's what Hillary Clinton said. So we out here to see. Have you seen the Nazi today?
You are the Nazi part, yes.
Yeah. No, I'm white though. I'm the
Nazi right here, yes.
Yeah.
Dominican Nazi.
Latina Nazi. We got.
Oh, I'm the black Nazi.
Black Nazi.
The biggest blackest Nazi you ever seen in your life.
I'm the Jewish Nazi. The Jewish Nazi. Listen, I'm the cool Nazi. I'm the white Nazi. I'm Mr. Cool himself. Get out here, baby.
I'm white Nazi.
And he's the white Nazi. White Nazi.
United Donald J. Trump, the 47th president of the United States.
Stop listening to the media.
Oh my God, the energy. So I'll play one more and then we'll discuss this, Jeff. But this girl is Jewish, and she describes what she saw when she was at Madison Square Garden for the rally.
I just got back from Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. I'm a Jewish New York Republican, and I have seen the mainstream media calling this a Nazi rally. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There were so many Jews there, just like myself. There was Israeli flags, and nearly every single speaker talked about their commitment to upholding the relationship between U.S. and Israel. Not to mention all the Latinos for Trump, gays for Trump, and nearly every other group that would have never been allowed in if this was actually a Nazi rally. Kamala Harris could literally bring Adolf Hitler on her stage, and the mainstream media still wouldn't call it a Nazi rally. Their lies are futile. Trump is winning this election in 9 days. Make sure you get out, vote early, and vote for Donald Trump.
I mean, those are a whole bunch of Nazis I've never seen before. I mean,
well, the Nazis have become the big tent party, you know.
Well said.
You know?
They really have expanded their horizons, haven't they?
Yeah. You know, again, it's just desperation. They've tried everything. They've tried killing him twice. They've tried, putting him in jail, bankrupting him, ruining his everything, and nothing sticks because people see through it. And this, the next one, I guess next week they're going to be trying to say he's like a space alien or something. If you pull off his mask, you'll find a lizard head underneath. But because they're running out of other stuff.
I mean, they've tried. Basically stealing his ideas, no tax on tips, and trying to claim that it was their idea. Of course, in this age of social media, especially uncensored to a large extent on X, Rumble, and Cloud Hub, in that they can't just sweep this under the carpet like they did in 2020, right? They had backdoor access to all this stuff in 2020. So anytime somebody said something like, Hunter Biden laptop, they got either deleted off the platform, suppressed, whatever the case may be. And they can't do that this time around. The truth is getting out. And it kills me because they keep doing the same things, expecting different results. And we're back to the definition of insanity here. I mean, realistically, somebody should have come to the conclusion quite some time ago that we need to put together popular positions on the important issues and run on that. We're back to this whole thing of there's two types of people in this world. Those people elevate themselves by elevating everybody around them, and those people elevate themselves by putting people down. And the Democrats, the party at least, falls into that second bucket. And I'm not going to say Republicans. I will say the mega crowd is in the other side 100%. It's the support and uplifting of everybody on our side is very stark in comparison to the negativity on the Democrat part.
Well, Trump's not trying to win the election by discouraging black people from voting. He's trying to win the election by getting them to vote for him. Same with, Hispanics and Asians and everything else. He is more uniting than any of the Democrats. Democrats think half of us we're a basket of deplorables. We cling to our Bible and guns. They're belittling us.
Absolutely.
Trump wants everybody on his side.
Well, I mean, and they're constantly insulting people from different races, right? Like everything in the Democrat Party, Obama's world, is pitting race against race against race. So, the way he talked down to black men, that went over like a lead balloon. The brothers got to, vote for Kamala because she's a Democrat and she's a female and all this stuff. And if you don't, you're not black, like Joe Biden said, in the 2020 election cycle. Everything that they say is negative and exclusionary. And none of it is, like you said, the big tent party. The Nazis are now the big tent party. And that's freaking hilarious. But, it's true. I want to bring up Laura Loomer's comments on last night. Pretty telling stuff. Last night was amazing. As I left Madison Square Gardens, I saw thousands of people in the streets of New York wearing their MAGA hats and chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. You never would have seen this in New York City 9 years ago. And I would know. I lived in New York 9 years ago and voted for Trump in New York. So this next one, I'm not going to play the video here. I'm going to pause it and share this page. I'm not going to play this. There's a picture below this that I want to show people as far as who the Nazis were and who the mega crowd are, or actually, sorry, who the Nazis are and who the Democrats are. And it's pretty much one and the same. So the Nazis were in favor of socialism. So are the Democrats. The Nazis didn't want any citizens to have guns. Same with the Democrats. They wanted to control the media to blast out their propaganda. Same thing the Democrats have done. They wanted widespread abortion, just like the Democrats. They hated Jews. I mean, the Democrats have flat out been cheering on terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas against Israel. And they both want you to worship the government. I mean, do we share any of these aspects as far as those of us who support Donald Trump, in your opinion, Jeff?
Do we have any of those aspects?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we're fighting against censorship. We want people to be able to buy guns to defend themselves. We don't want socialism in our country. We're capitalists. We don't want, they want the worship of government. We want people to worship God or whoever they want to worship, basically freedom of religion. You want to worship God, you want to worship Allah, you want to, you can be Jewish, you can be Hindu, you can be nothing. But they want you to look at government as God. And you think about it, they give you your education, they give you the money to live, they decide if and when you can have an abortion, they decide if and when you can go to college. They basically want to control every aspect of your life. They want to know they want to tell you what kind of car to drive, when to drive it, and when not to drive it. The whole 15-minute city thing. They want to tell you where you have to live. That's Democrats. Republicans are the complete polar opposite of that. We're the party of freedom.
So how badly do you think the following scenario hurt Kamala Harris when she told the people in the audience who said something with regards to, Jesus being our savior, and she said, "Oh, you're at the wrong rally. You want the smaller rally down the road." I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how much that hurt her, because I personally think, as the largest Christian country in the world, largest population of Christians, and Russia being number 2, that's one of those. There's multiple kind of little watershed events in this campaign. I think that's one of them.
Yeah, because it's one of those when she screwed up and told the truth, because it was an off-the-cuff remark. It was a Freudian slip.
There you go.
She accidentally told you what she really thinks, and
Good
there
point.
was no walking it back.
Well, she's tried to, right? So there's been
but
several,
if you were there and you heard it, yeah.
There's been a handful of these contrived episodes of her, going to church or saying she goes to church, blah, blah, blah. She's absolutely full of shit. But anyway, let's have a listen to Tulsi Gabbard last night at Madison Square Gardens.
Hello, New York. Join me as we say these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As we gather here today on this historic occasion, we stand together as proud Americans in understanding that these very rights are under attack. So we face this historic crossroad where our freedom and our future is in our hands. There's never been a more clear choice in any election in my life, and our ability to live in a truly peaceful and free and prosperous country is on the line. I love you too. And it is that love that brings us together here today, that love for freedom, that love for our country and love for each other as fellow Americans, as children of God, that compels us to take action to save our country and defend our freedom. Now, this choice that we have before us is very personal to me. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve. I've served now for over 21 years. I've deployed to different war zones 3 times over that period, and I've seen the cost of war. For my brothers and sisters who paid the ultimate price, I carry their memories and their sacrifice in my heart every day. So this choice that we have before us as Americans is critical. It's important to us. It's important to those of us who serve, who have volunteered to put our lives on the line for the safety, security, and freedom of our country and our people. And it's critical to all of us. Here is the choice that we have. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Dick Cheney, and it's a vote for war, more war, likely World War III and nuclear war. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them, and who has demonstrated already that he has the courage and strength to stand up and fight for peace.
So I'll end that there. It goes on for quite a while, but Tulsi Gabbard has started to grow on me. I don't like her previous stances as far as guns are concerned. I don't know how much of that was her towing the party line when she was a Democrat versus what her true beliefs are. At the very least, she seems to have backed off of criticizing the Second Amendment as she has done in the past, as well as the fact that, in my opinion, the only thing that stays the same in life is that nothing stays the same, and people's opinions and perspectives can change. Now, I don't buy the whole flip-flop crap like Joe Biden's had going on for his entire career, but I haven't heard her say one bad word with regards to the Second Amendment and guns this year. Have you heard anything to that effect?
No, not at all. If she's held those opinions in the past, I got to admit I wasn't following her career 5-10 years ago. She was a congressman from Hawaii, not exactly my beat. So,
Right.
And as a Democrat, I would expect her to toe the party line on, major hot button issues. But apparently she got sick of it.
Yeah, agreed. So the next one that I'm going to go to is Dana White. She's been friends with Donald Trump for a very long time. The guy's on fire. By the way, playing that with that AC/DC song probably just got this video nuked within the hour off of YouTube like they did to us last night. But anyway, here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are 9 days away from the most important election of my lifetime. Stakes have never been higher, and the choice has never been clearer. President Trump and I have been friends for 25 years. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. He is the most resilient, hardest working human being that I've ever met in my life. I know he's a great leader. This is not my opinion, not my hope. He's proven he can build the strongest economy in American history. He's proven he can secure our borders and keep our nation safe. He's proven to be the strong leader allies and adversaries alike must respect. He's proven he loves this country so much, he's literally put his life on the line for it. What has the other candidate proven? She can get your party's nomination without even facing voters. What else? What else can she offer the American people other than vague promises and no plan? She talks a lot about the need for change and her hope for the future. Hope and change. Does that sound familiar? She can use the old Obama playbook, but she's not Obama, and she is no agent of change. She is the sitting vice president of the United States right now. What she hopes is voters will focus on the future because she doesn't want us looking at the last 4 years to see what we really need to change. We need change from sky-high inflation. According to Yahoo Finance, the cost of groceries is up over 25% during the Biden-Harris administration. Food is unaffordable for most Americans. That has to change. We need change from wide open borders. BBC News reports illegal immigration reached record levels since they took office, with an estimated 10 million border crossings. That's a 300% increase compared to the Trump administration, and that's not including the unknown millions who cross undetected. That is the record of the other candidate, the border czar of the Biden administration.
I mean, absolutely truthful and damning at the same time. So let me pull up another one here, Jeff. This is one of Donald Trump's attorneys, the one in the hush money case, Alina. Can't recall her last name. It'll come to me in a minute, but let's hear what she had to say.
This rally has rattled some of my favorite swamp creatures. Hey guys, they're now struggling and trying to call us Nazis and fascists and claiming, and you know what they're claiming, guys? It's very scary. They're claiming we're going to go after them and try and put them in jail. Well, ain't that rich? Kamala, you want to talk about a fascist? No one has ever voted for you to become the Democrat nominee. You see, I believe in something called the Constitution. And I believe in someone called God. And they tried to keep President Trump and his campaign in courtrooms being persecuted. But do you know what he did while he was in those New York courtrooms? He won the hearts and minds of the American people, all from this city.
She's very, very well spoken and a great attorney. We're going to move on to a couple more here before we pause, Jeff, but I like what he stated here. The left really underestimate how much this reality denying insanity would backfire. You can only stretch reality so far before it snaps back.
We will get race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools. And we will keep men and women's sports. I will defend religious liberty. I will restore free speech, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms. Our Second Amendment is under siege.
One more. And this guy is right. We will never see something again like what happened last night at Madison Square Garden.
For me, I think the historic nature of all this, from the very beginning, when you saw Melania walk out in surprise, and then you saw the two of them just taking this moment in. It's not like any rally he's ever held before, and he's had big rallies filling airport hangars. This is entirely different. Like you said, Lisa, we'll never see it again. And then just standing there, soaking it in, waving at the crowd. We don't get to see that type of moment from Donald Trump out on the campaign trail all that often. And he talked about his love of New York, the city where I was born and raised. And of course, he went on to make great highlights and plans and promises, and unveiling the new tax breaks and things, and promising America's new golden age. He had his plan, the message he was going to do, but it started with this moment where he soaked it all in. And I think when you look at something political, this is history, and it was worth taking that moment.
And let me move on to one more.
We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
That absolutely scares the shit out of Kamala Harris's team. Did you catch on the weekend how they did another bait and switch where they advertised, Beyonce?
Beyonce thing. Everyone thought it was a concert, a pre-concert.
Yeah, and then she spoke for a couple minutes, sort of thing.
I think they lost more voters than they gained on that one.
Yeah. So my question to you is, you got not much, but you got a few years on me. Is there any campaign in the past that you can recall that had the level of excitement that Donald Trump's campaign currently has?
No, I really can't. I mean, the first campaign I remember as growing up was Ford against Carter, and no, it was not like that. And then Reagan, there was a lot of energy behind Reagan, and there was a lot of smearing Reagan, like we're seeing them do to Trump now. Except then it was he's going to start World War III. He's going to, he's off the rails. He's too crazy. He's going to, he's going to nuke the Russians. We're all going to die. And then of course that turned out to be total nonsense as well. And Bush, Clinton, the other Bush, Obama, none of them had this kind of energy.
I've racked my brain as well, Jeff, and I can't think of anything like it at all. The closest would be Reagan, and I think if Ronald Reagan was alive right now, that he'd be pretty proud of what Donald Trump has accomplished. What I can't get over the fact is that our country is deeply divided, has been for years now. It's this asymmetric fifth generation warfare that's being waged against us by our enemies to divide and conquer. And well, here's my last question before we move on to the final home stretch. Other than the crazy cat ladies with purple and pink hair, are there any demographics that Donald Trump has not pulled into his orbit during this campaign that you can think of?
Well, you got the cat ladies. You've got the militant abortion crowd.
I'll grant you
even
that.
though he said, I'm not going to sign a national ban on abortion if it hits my desk, they are so consumed by their own mania on this one issue that they should be able to kill their child moments before it's about to they're about to give birth. It is it's like a religious sacrament to them, but it's Satan's sacrament. That group, I don't think you can ever win because they're insane. Let's just face it. They are utterly insane. When you listen to them and, abortion is not killing a child. Well, that's kind of the definition of the word. Yeah, it is. They latch onto the clump of cells and, all this rationalization in their mind. I just wonder at some point in their lives, are they going to wake up and say, oh crap, was I ever wrong? Are they going to want children and not be able to have them because they've had multiple abortions? There's people like that. I just can't. Again, it's almost like a religious right to them to kill a child, and that I just can't see. I wouldn't want them voting for me.
Right. Every time the abortion topic comes up, I like to point out to people, I know I don't have to do it with you, but maybe some of the people in the audience who aren't entirely familiar with what happened, but all Donald Trump did was return the power to the states with regards to abortion. He said
he didn't do anything. Supreme Court did. He wasn't even in office when they did it.
Well, they're going to say it was his Supreme Court picks sort of thing that did it. So he bears some of the credit for it, but
he does.
His whole thing is to really, get back to what the federal government was supposed to be. He never banned abortion. His surrogates, his nominees never banned anything like that. No. And then on top of that, you have some states. I remember when Northam was in office in Virginia, and they had very specific, verbiage in their laws that allowed the fetus after it's born and is now a baby to be killed under a number of different circumstances. And
if it was a failed abortion and the baby was born alive, they say, "Oh, we will make it comfortable until it dies." Basically, and
it's satanic. I don't know how else you can describe it. It's I don't know how you could square that any other way. That's murder. It's straight up murder, And here's the thing: is that up until maybe the 2020 election cycle, I guess. Well, maybe 2016 election cycle, actually, abortion was never like a top tier issue for me. It was there I disagreed with it, but as a libertarian, it's like, y'all do whatever you do and leave me out of it, sort of thing. I think I know for a fact, because I've discussed it with other people like myself, they turned it into a topic that we care about, that I care about now, because what it's done is it's taken away this veil that hid just how evil these people are. And it's absolutely a galvanizing issue for me now. So, each to their own. But let me pull up the couple of last miscellaneous things. Don't really fall under Madison Square Gardens, but they aren't even hiding it anymore, folks. Undocumented immigrants for Harris. We are not going back. Well, I highly doubt any of them are watching Survival Dispatch News, but if one of you is watching this broadcast, yes, you are. You're going back, and so is everybody else that came into the country and broke our laws. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. And the next one, I won't play this whole thing, but this is Trump's nephew. Forgiato Blow is his stage name. Watch what happens when they started giving out MAGA hats in this black community.
Donald Trump was president, was life better?
Life was 100 times better, and I felt like the tip of the spear was sharp. Come on now.
Woo! America. This man, Donald Trump is the best thing that ever happened to America. And I'm going to tell you why. Let's go.
Of course. Who you voting for?
Trump.
Yeah, why's that?
Because we need to be Republican again.
I don't know what they got to say about Trump, but I know what I got to say about it. I'll with him. Excuse my language. Hold on, we gonna see that. Hit the place. Oh, that joint on, yeah.
Oh, these my people out here.
Watch out, 2024. Now I gotta put that on for real. Do you think Kamala would ever come to this neighborhood? Who is that? Yeah. You want to make America great again?
Yeah.
Make America great again, baby.
Thank you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let me see you. Woo! Yeah, that's the look right there, my brother.
Trump!
There you go.
Trump!
Essentially, that America was in better hands under Donald Trump, so vote Trump.
So I'll pause it there. I mean, there's another 10 plus minutes of that goes on in that video. And I guess last question on all this stuff, Jeff, is other than Obama when he ran the first time in 2008, have you seen anybody get the black community as fired up as what Donald Trump has going on right now? Yeah. I don't even think Reagan had them that fired up, to be honest with you. Like not even close. So that's a really heartwarming, good video to watch. I will mention anybody who is a subscriber over at patreon.com/survival dispatch. The brief that Jeff and I are working off of was posted there many hours ago for our insiders. So you can go through all of the videos that I didn't play the entire video like that last one. I would encourage you to do so if you're an insider. It's well worth it. So, Jeff, based on everything that we've discussed in this video, I came up with 3 action items that I feel our audience can work on. And then I'll let you speak your mind as well. But number 1, vote and take as many non-voters with you as possible, not just one. We've got to make this thing way too big to rig. Go vote between now and November 5th. Myself, I think November 5th is the better time to vote because I think early votes can be jacked with, but you make the decision. But don't just take one person. Take a handful of people. Point number 2, spread the word of truth-telling citizen journalists, just like Survival Dispatch News. We're not the only one out there, but the mainstream media has failed the American people miserably, and basically because they're under the thumb of the bad guys. And number 3, if you really want to do something special and you live in one of these swing states or, a precinct where there's been cheating, you still have time to volunteer as a poll watcher. So those are the 3 things I came up with. Jeff, is there anything you can think of in this home stretch, 8 days to the election, that our audience could do?
Everything that you've said there too, but if there's any undecided voters out there, when you listen to the mainstream media, just remember, keep in your mind all those Black, Jewish, and Hispanic Nazis that were at that rally, and ask yourself, okay, this TV station, this ABC, NBC, CBS that I'm listening to, or MSNBC, Are they telling me the truth? And the big answer is going to be a hell no. Just open your eyes, and then keep that in mind when you go vote. Don't believe the people who lie to you.
Yeah. Good, solid advice. I mean, people have to come to grips with the fact that the mainstream media has gone too far to save. Yep. They're a branch of the government. It's propaganda, branch of the oligarchs, technocrats, cabal, whatever you want to call them. They're full of shit. They're all in this together. Big media, big brother, and big tech are all in it together. So good advice, Jeff. I mean, I guess I tack like one thing on to the end of that is, you may not have as much time as I do because this is what I work on full time. But when you read something or you hear something, and let's just say for argument's sake, it's on CNN, go over to somewhere like Breitbart and see what they've got to say, and then make up your own mind based on what sounds more believable and where the truth is, because it's usually somewhere in the middle, right? But I will give Breitbart credit. For the most part, they're pretty good, pretty truthful. So with that being said, if y'all could mash the like button, we would appreciate it very much. On Rumble, at one point in time, we had over 200 people logged on, and we got 45 likes. When you like our videos, you share them, you subscribe, you comment on them, you watch them for a longer duration, it gets our videos recommended to other people on whatever the platform is, because all of the platforms, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, whatever, they all want the same thing. They want to capture people's attention, and they don't want you to leave their platform to go somewhere else. So, for example, if you look in the comment section of Rumble, none of the links are clickable. You have to highlight, copy, and go paste it into a web browser because they want to make it difficult for you to go away from the website. So by doing all the things that I just mentioned, it would help us tremendously. It also help our cause tremendously. So, conflicted question. Give 5 tips for winning a gunfight. And I know Jeff's going to have some stuff that wouldn't have occurred to me. So I'm going to give you 5 really quick ones, okay? So number 1, get professional training now so that you are better equipped to handle something like this. God forbid that you're in a citizen-involved shooting, but get professional training. Number 2, start practicing on a regular basis now. That could be live fire, could be a Mantis, dry fire rig, Blackbeard X for ARs, X10 for every other type of gun. Unit Solutions, CO2 powered rifles. They have a handgun, by the way, coming soon, which I can't wait to get my hands on. Right now I use, if I'm shooting with a Unit Solutions training rifle, and I'm practicing transitions to pistols, I use a Glock 19 with a Mantis X10 and a dry fire mag. And that's the company's name, Dry Fire, because it resets the trigger each pull. Number 3, if you get involved in one of these situations, seek cover and concealment as fast as possible. Number 4, for red dots, there's a way of practicing with red dots, whether it be on a handgun, or an SBR. And it's basically, there's 3 types of scenarios, I should say, when you have those types of optics that you would shoot under, right? So one of them is to be so consistent in where you bring the gun that you can shoot it and probably hit somebody at a fairly decent distance, say 25 yards, without even looking through the red dot, okay? Because you're so consistent. Myself, I run my left finger down the barrel, so I always point at whatever I'm shooting at. Lots of people do. It's nothing unique to me. The next one would be, okay, I can see the red dot, but I'm not stopping long enough to make sure that I'm 100% on target. So you go from no red, you don't see any red, and you're shooting because you're directionally correct, to I got my first glimpse of red or green, and it's on that silhouette of that person, versus the third one where you're putting the red dot on sight and you're waiting till you know that you have a good alignment before pulling the trigger. So you should be practicing under all 3 of those types of circumstances. Number 5, shameless plug for my good buddy James at Pilgrim Ammunition. It is absolutely deadly. It has ruined our relationship with every single body panel manufacturer out there. When they send out stuff that says it's 3A rated, that means it can handle up to 5 shots of 44 mag, theoretically. And so they like to advertise that 9mm, they all do this, that 9mm is the most common handgun round and it repels it. No, it doesn't. Speed kills. So it's not just Pilgrim ammunition. It's anything that's plus P that's traveling at a faster speed will sail right through 3A body armor. With that being said, only Pilgrim ammunition has just the craziest hydrostatic shock. So very consistently, 50 grain projectile will, go somewhere around 4 inches deep, 5 inches deep, and then all of the energy gets dispersed laterally. I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it one more time just to be clear. The first time that I met James, which is almost 4 years ago, he had a very expensive ballistic dummy. Like all the ballistic dummies cost, something, but this one was really expensive, and it was on the ground. And James handed a pistol with his ammo in it to Jason McCoy and said, "I want you to wing the dummy right here." So the bullet went into the left shoulder blade right here, and it turned the entire left side of the heart into just jelly. And that's that hydrostatic shock. The energy has to go somewhere. It's a fragmenting round. And the next part to that is there have been no instances of somebody shooting somebody with Pilgrim ammunition and the bullet going through the intended target and hitting somebody behind them, because it doesn't do that. The way the projectile is designed is maximum damage. There was a guy recently in California let a bad guy get too close to him and ended up having to shoot him in the neck, and the bullet wedged itself into the neck. James got a call from the investigator and said that he'd never seen anything like it as far as the damage was concerned, but the projectile didn't go through. So long-winded answer to 5 things that you can do. You can rewind this and play it back if you want after we're finished with this live broadcast, or if you're a Survival Dispatch insider on Patreon, patreon.com/Survival Dispatch, this brief and all those answers are in it. Jeff, what did I miss?
Well, I would say, first of all, a problem avoided is a problem solved. So if you can avoid the gunfight in the first place,
well said.
Some of the stuff you touched on is find cover. One, because if you're both out in the open and shoot at, you don't want to do the old high noon shooting them in the middle of the street. That's not good. You want to shoot from cover, and you don't know if the guy's alone, so you want to have cover in case he's got, he's not the only person, and make sure your 6 is covered as well. If you know it's going to come to it, shoot first. Don't let the guy get a free shot at you. If it's really coming at you. And the other one is, it kind of runs contrary to what I just said, is take your time. An aimed shot is a slower aimed shot is much more likely to hit the target than a fast kind of off the hip shot. Get a sight picture, line them up, know what you're doing, know who you're shooting, what you're shooting. But
I agree. And what I would add there is that first you get good. In other words, first you get accurate, then you get fast. You don't want to just go out slinging lead while you're practicing or dry firing and you're all over the map. So if you have to go slower, so for example, with being blind in one eye, if I'm looking through an optic and I'm trying to walk, when you only have vision in one eye, you become very myopic, right? Which means that I'm focused on this. If I go to look away for a second, it takes time for my eye to adjust, because myopia is a serious problem with people who have monovision like I do. I had a really hard time, walking towards a target and not having the barrel doing all this, because I'm trying to watch where I'm walking and stuff. And Carl Cottle helped me with that and got it to the point now where I can walk towards a target and every single round hits it, because practice. So I had to practice first to get accurate. Then I had to practice to get faster. And that would be my recommendation for what you just said. Want to mention Velcro 1167. This guy's a very accomplished shooter, was a sniper. And, some of his stuff that he's put in here is really, really good. Number 3, practice. Number 4, don't miss. But this one right here, distance equals safety.
Yep.
And that's a really good point on his part. But Jeff, that's it. I think we made it through the brief. We'll be back tomorrow night with another live episode. Everybody out there, we appreciate your support. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless America.
God bless.
It feels like 2008 all over again. The best way to protect your savings is with gold and silver. As the national debt soars past $34 trillion and the banking system wobbles, your financial well-being could be at risk. Precious metals like gold and silver hedge against inflation and dollar devaluation. They're perfect for diversifying your portfolio. With Goldco, it's easy. Get first-class service, step-by-step guidance, and a free wealth protection kit. In just 3 simple steps, you can roll over your 401k or IRA into precious metals, tax and penalty-free. Todd Callender and I chose Goldco because they stand out with over 6,000 5-star ratings, an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and a highest buyback price guarantee. Don't wait. Secure your financial future. Visit survival.gold or click the link below to get your free 2024 Wealth Protection Kit now. Government agencies have been weaponized against us. The Secret Service reacts too late. The FBI manufactures cases. The ATF targets our firearms, and the FDA screws us to drive big pharma profits. We must support Trump, who literally took a bullet for us, and back independent media like Survival Dispatch News. Now they're aiming to make Black Forest NMN a regulated anti-aging product to drive more profits for big pharma. NMN is the only over-the-counter supplement I've taken that's noticeably increased my energy levels, allowing me to work extreme hours. I've taken almost every OTC supplement over the past 42 years that I've been training, many of them as a world champion powerlifter. Get your NMN before it's too late. Buy 2, get 1 free. Click the link below. Stay alert, stay strong, and stay safe.